Hello, I'm Sahid. Thank you for clicking this video, and I'm very happy that you're here. If you're new, welcome. For the past few weeks, I've been reading Canadian literature, particularly this book called Moon of the Crusted Snow, and it's been a very fun experience for me. In the book, to give a brief summary, it's about a small indigenous community located in northern Canada known as the Anishinaabe community. The Anishinaabe community is very strong on hunting, fishing, and giving back. It's sort of their custom slash tradition. Within this book, they're currently facing an unfortunate circumstance and within their community, and it is that they have no power. They're currently experiencing a power outage that is causing them to no longer have high internet access. They have no TV, no electricity, no communication with the outside world, no radio communication with the outside world, and all of these things are sort of affecting them negatively, and so they're sort of thrusted to making sudden changes in their lives, and people attitudes are starting to change. People are becoming panic, frustrated, full of anxiety, and these are unfortunate emotions that they're feeling. And now leaders within the community are also worried because they don't really have communication to know what's happening and finding solutions to help during this time. And so they also are sort of feel like they're helpless in this situation, and they're worried for their community. And so as I continue to read this book, that's what I'm paying attention to. What is gonna happen that's gonna cause this community to be freed from this unfortunate emergency and freed from this unfortunate circumstance, and um, what are leaders doing to solve it and bring a solution, and how are people attitudes changing throughout this book. And yeah, so thank you for being here, and now I will read chapter 12. And by the way, I just oiled my scalp and put my durag on, so I feel really nice and I'm ready to sleep. But before bed tonight, I wanted to read chapter 12. The snow came again overnight, pounding the small community at an unforgiving pace. Another thick layer of heavy snow lay on the roads, driveways, and rooftops, keeping even Isaiah and Tyler too busy to worry. They formed their usual snow clearing formation, even driving the plug in the middle with the other two staggered behind him in pickup trucks outfitted with large yellow blades to clear the excess. A full a, a full pass through the reserve took all morning and most of the afternoon. The two main roads that ran north to south and east to west and intersected right in the middle of the community were always first. Then the secondary roads that branched off from them in straight lines. The boreal region they lived in was mostly flat and allowed a practical grid layout of the res roads, driveways, and homes at regular intervals. From his high seat in the plug's cab, even didn't notice much activity around the houses they passed. The unremitting snowfall keeping people inside. A few children played happily as full-blown winter held steady. The convoy came to the end of the road by the northern trading post, where they had decided to stop in the parking lot for a break before driving the equipment back to the yard. The store had been closed for nearly a week since the townspeople had ravaged its stock. Was that really a week ago? Even wondered. Without any steady routine, the days were beginning to blur together and time was becoming more fluid. Despite the chaos, even felt more relaxed in some ways, falling into the natural rhythm of the days and the task that needed to be done. They parked the trucks randomly. There was no worry of impending any other vehicles. The air was a little milder as it usually was following a major snowfall, so they left their heavy jackets in the trucks and stood around in insulated construction overalls and sweaters adorned with logos of sports teams and sportwear companies. They sparked their tobacco and inhaled without saying anything. Isaiah reached into his pocket for a brown plastic bottle. He held his cigarette in his mouth while he unscrewed the black metal cap. He transferred the cigarette back to one hand and tipped the bottle back. He passed it to Even. Even took the Mikey of rye from Isaiah and dumped the liquor into his mouth just as quickly and effectively as his friend did. He barely tasted the burn of the cheap booze, but it warmed his throat and his innards all the way down. It was both comforting and shameful, as it always was. Tyler took it from his hand, continuing the circle. Even broke the silence. Hopefully that's all the snow for a bit. Yeah, really. This shit ain't letting up. Agreed, Isaiah. It's like we're getting kicked while we're down. Tyler laughed. As if, easy. What a drama queen. You guys are acting like the world is ending. How do you know it ain't, asshole? Isaiah retorted. The end of the world is gonna be big bums or earthquakes or some shit like that. The dinosaurs were around for like 1 billion years, and the only thing that could do them in was a massive fucking asteroid. This shit wasn't. This shit wouldn't be slow, believe me. Okay, Professor. Even shook his head and laughed. Listen to you two geniuses. The bottle came back around and he took another swig. The faint hum of snowmobiles bounced off the woods around them. The buzz swelled to a roar from the southeast. Tyler fixed his eyes on the surface road beyond the store. It was heavily snowed in, and no vehicles had driven it in weeks. But now someone was coming. Even turned to look, and so did Isaiah, dragging off his cigarette again. Evergreen trees concealed the bend in the road about a half-kilometer from where they stood. Trucks leaving the community always disappeared into the forest, no matter what time of year they left. And those approaching could always be heard before they were seen. Even could hear now that there were at least two of them. Wonder who's coming from that way, Tyler thought out loud. I didn't see no one head out. Two machines pulling long sleds emerged from the trees. A bright yellow one led the way, with a black one slightly behind it and to the right. Both drivers wore dark suits and black helmets. It was impossible to tell who they were, and even felt his back tense. He glanced at Tyler and then at Isaiah. Both looked uneasy. The snowmobiles glided along the snowy surface that would become the community's winter access to the south once the surface was established. The drivers cut a path straight to Even, Isaiah, and Tyler. They came in a full speed and slowed only as they reached the high snowbanks that dropped to the road that the team had just cleared. The drivers eased their snowmobiles over the frozen ridge at the end of the road. The one in front raised a hand in greeting, as if he recognized familiar faces. The other did the same, and they brought their machines to a stop in front of the three Anishinaabe men and pulled off their helmets. Tyler recognized his little brother. Holy fuck, it's Kevin. Kevin's short brown hair was messy, and he looked tired, but he smiled to see his brother and the road crew. The black snowmobile stopped beside him, and the second rider stood up and took off his helmet. It was Nick Jones, Kevin's best friend, looking just as disheveled. Tyler charged to his brother and wrapped his arms around him. What the fuck are you guys doing here? He shouted in excitement. Kevin buried his head in his brother's shoulder and began to sob. Even and Isaiah rushed in and took turns hugging Nick, who was heaving with emotion and struggling to smile through a tear-streaked face. He caught his breath and said, "You guys have no fucking idea how good it is to see you." "You too, bud," said Isaiah. "What's going on?" Fear hummed in Evan's ears. This not good, he thought. Not good at all. "Everything's fucked up," said Kevin, as he stifled another sob. "Everything's fucked up. We had to come home." "What do you mean, bro?" asked Isaiah. "It's chaos down there, Izzy," replied Nick. He was referring to Gibson, about 300 kilometers to the southwest. "The food's all gone. The power's out. There's no gas. There's been no word from Toronto or anywhere else. People are looting and getting violent. We had to get the fuck out of there." "So it's everywhere," Even thought. Kevin picked up where Nick left off. "We stole these sleds from school and left early this morning when it was still dark. Shit was going bad right after the power went out, so we decided to make plans to get out of there. We stocked up some old stuff for a few days before leaving. The sleds behind the snowmobiles each held 2 large black hockey bags and 2 orange jerry cans of gas. All of the supplies were tied down tightly. We thought we might get lost," he continued, "but getting lost and freezing to death would have been better than just one more day in that shithole." Even adjusted his hat and sucked on his cigarette one last time before throwing it to the ground. It was his turn to hug and welcome the boys home. Comforting them was also an attempt to alleviate his own anxiety. "We're glad you made it," he said. Kevin and Nick were younger than Even and taller. They had that rangy, thin build of young men who had who have not quite finished growing. Their almond-shaped eyes still held a youthful innocence, but they also betrayed a hardened desire to survive. You guys should probably go home and see your parents, but don't make a big scene or nothing like that. Just try to go home quietly. Maybe park those sleds behind the store, and we'll give you rides home. Kevin and Nick nodded in agreement. So did Isaiah and Tyler. Don't tell anyone yet what's going on down there. We should probably talk to Terry and the council about it first. People around here are already panicking. Really? Asked Nick. How bad is it? The power's been out here too, and brought up everybody brought up everything in the store. Even gestured with his head towards the trading post. Fuck, said Kevin. He turned and ran his palm down his brown face to wipe away his tears and sweat. Don't worry about that, though, said Even. We're fine. We got things under control, but we need everyone on the same page. So go home, let your families know you're here, and I'll go get Terry and everyone else together. Let's meet at the band office later this afternoon, whenever you're ready. We'll wait for you there. Kevin and Nick agreed and untied the hockey bags and gas cans from the carts and threw them in the back of the pickup trucks. They got back on the snowmobiles and drove them behind the store. Kevin got in the truck with his brother, and Nick got in with Isaiah. Even sat alone in his truck as he watched them peel out. He turned the key and waited for the initial rumble of the diesel engine to settle into a steady hum, then leaned his head on the window, staring at his friends' trucks as they dwindled into the distance. And that is the end of chapter 12. Wow, that one was actually kind of sad. Not even kind of, it was actually kind of, it was actually really emotional. Let's talk about it. Chapter 12 starts with sort of how, it's getting colder and colder, and due to this time of winter, the snow is getting, more and more loaded daily because of how much snow is falling. And now the roads are sort of piled up, and, even Isaiah and the other maintenance guys are sort of the ones who keep these roads and areas maintained to let people be able to sort of, move from one place to another, to walk and do things in their community. And so they keep it maintained, and, while they're doing this, and, they have a moment in which they're taking a break, they hear, even here is actually, like, well, they all hear, but Even was the one who mentioned about it. The snowmobiles, the two snowmobiles that were approaching them, and these snowmobiles happen to be people from Gibson, which is like a closer part of, part of, or how would I describe it? A closer area within them in a way, and it's also within Northern Canada, and so when they come, they at first thought it was just, snowmobiles doing their typical thing and just coming, but when they take off their element, Tyler, who was also with Eve and Isaiah at the time, recognizes his younger brother Kevin, and next to him was Nick, who is Kevin's best friend, and these two, as we come to read about, were escaping this tragedy that's also happening in their community in Gibson. There's no power, people are losing, there's violence, people are panicking. So in their sort of community, it's gotten much worse, and people are losing it there, and you know, it forces them to have to find ways to get out of that and come back home. There's an emotional moment in which Kevin begins to cry when he was explaining what was going on to even Isaiah and Tyler, and I felt I was very sad about that, hearing that, and here comes Even and sort of telling him to trying to comfort him, because that's also his way of comforting and calming down, even though these are times of panic. People are worried. Even is worried. Community members and townspeople are worried. But he's sort of telling, Kevin and them, and to not sort of spread that yet about what's happening in the community, because he doesn't want people within his community to be worried and sort of stressed about what's yet to come, because things most likely will get worse, and it's unfortunate to say that, but it's sadly the truth. And hearing Kevin and Nick sort of talk about what's going on in their community is really sad. And as I continue to read, I'm really worried on how things might possibly get worse for the Anishinaabe community. But yeah, that's kind of a summary of chapter 12. It's quite interesting, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you join me on the upcoming chapters, and please subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this video. Thank you. Bye.